Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing my July wrap-up. I managed to read 8 books in July, which I am inordinately pleased with because, again, bar, which I have now taken, so you will be hearing significantly less of it because I don't have to study for it anymore. Obviously, I haven't found out if I pass yet, but we're gonna cross that bridge when we come to it. And again, by we I mean I. So, into the books. The first one, in no particular order, is Second Born by Amy Bartol. This is about a young woman who was born into a giant bureaucracy with 9 different what are called fates. And each of these fates has some sort of function. Her family is the fate of swords. There's also the fate of tech, which might be stars, different names like that. And you are only allowed to have 2 children. The first is the typical heir, and they take over when the fate of whatever cog in machine dies. The second born, at least in her family, goes to the army because they are the fate of swords and, you know, swords fighting army. It all makes sense, right? The premise of it is that she doesn't like the way the system is running, and because it's a YA fantasy book, there's a romance and she changes the system. I have many problems with this book, so I'm hoping that the second one will improve, but this one just felt like 300 pages of exposition. There's nothing worth reading in this book. There were some lines that kind of went, oh, that's funny. But for the most part, it was predictable as all get out. The romance is introduced 30 pages in, and the first conversation they have is about sex. The science is useless, and the bureaucracy just is a bureaucracy. It had such potential, which is why I'm continuing on to the second one. I still gave this a 2 out of 5 because it was an easy read. If you want something really mindless, and I mean really mindless, this is a great book, but it just let me down badly because it had such potential and sounded so cool, and then was just 300 pages of exposition. The second one is House of Lords in Common by Ishii Hutchison. This is a book of poetry about racism in the British Empire, or the Commonwealth these days, and I found this book very interesting. It's harder poetry, or at least I found it to be so at times, and there are some poems that are evocative and they really bring to mind certain images and certain historical facts or elements, whereas there were more poems for me that didn't evoke anything but made sense in the context of the entirety. I do want to get back to this book when I have a little bit more mental energy to spare, because I read this as it was short before the bar, which maybe was not my best choice. So I'm hoping that I will get more out of it the second time around. I then proceeded to read Blade of Fire and Last Battle of the Ice Mark by Stuart Hill and completed the Ice Mark trilogy. I did a review on the full trilogy, which I will link down below, but suffice to say, I adore the Ice Mark trilogy, and the second and third books were significantly better than I remembered them being. I also then read the Graceling trilogy, which includes Fire, Graceling, and Bitterblue. I also did a review for this, and I will leave that link down below. Suffice to say, still loved it. The descriptions in Fire are amazing, the relationships are probably my favorite, but I didn't remember liking Bitterblue as much as Graceling, and that is still a little bit hard for me to say. In total, I read 7 books in the month of July. 7.5 if you consider that I finished Cry of the Ice Mark at the end of June, beginning of July. I am rather proud with reading almost 8 books in July because I was still studying for the bar and the stress was starting to get to me. That's all I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a big thumbs up down below, and if you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button down below. As always, I will leave my Goodreads linked in the down bar if you want to check it out. But until my next video, bye!